A ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas came into effect in Gaza on Friday, hours after Israel's cabinet ratified the deal.
Venezuelan opposition activist Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize.
A ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas came into effect in Gaza on Friday, hours after Israel's cabinet ratified the deal to pause fighting and exchange the remaining hostages. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the news in the early hours of Friday after convening with his cabinet, as well as U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims, and a central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Here we are today because Hamas had to, they had to do this deal. The pressure was on them, they were backed up, and you've got the bigger army, you were making inroads, and that's what led to this deal.
Tens of thousands of people gathered in Wadi Gaza in central Gaza started walking north after the military's announcement. Palestinians reported that heavy shelling ceased after the ceasefire was announced.
وإننا نعلن اليوم التوصل لاتفاق لإنهاء الحرب والعدوان على شعبنا والبدء بتنفيذ وقف دائم لإطلاق النار وانسحاب قوات الاحتلال ودخول المساعدات وفتح معبر رفح في الاتجاهين وتبادل الأسرى.
As part of the ceasefire, Israeli troops began to withdraw to agreed-upon deployment lines, the military said. The announcement was met with widespread joy for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, who, after 2 years of intense bombardment, are now seeing relief on the horizon. Tens of thousands of Palestinians began returning to northern Gaza on Friday after Israel announced a ceasefire with Hamas. Many rushed to see if their homes were still standing, with others simply seeking shelter as the south remains overcrowded.
طبعا عائلتي بتنتظر حاليا جمعنا اغراضنا وحاجه زي هيك على اساس انه في رجوع للمناطق اللي احنا بنسكن فيها. حنعاني نفس المعاناة، يعني مش كثير فرحة، لكن نوعا ما انه وقف اطلاق النار بمثابة انه ريحنا نفسيا شوية من الموت والجرح والحبايب والاقارب اللي بهدلوا في هذه الحرب.
The truce, brokered by the United States, aims to end more than 2 years of war and free remaining hostages and prisoners. Many Gazans say the truce brings relief after months of relentless bombardment and displacement, even if it may prove temporary. The agreement came into effect at noon local time, the Israeli military said Friday, adding that troops were withdrawing to agreed-upon deployment lines.
Venezuelan opposition activist Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize on Friday in Oslo, a distinction coveted by American President Donald Trump. The Norwegian Nobel Committee praised the opposition leader, who has been living in hiding in her own country since the contested re-election of President Nicolás Maduro, as a key unifying figure in a political opposition that was once deeply divided.
She is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy.
In an interview with Euronews recorded a year ago, Machado said the case of Venezuela is critical to the security of the Western Hemisphere and is dramatic on the human level.
In Kyiv, more than 20 people were pulled out by rescue crews from an apartment building in flames following a Russian attack. At least 12 people were injured in attacks as Moscow launched 497 over Ukraine on the night of Thursday into Friday, including kamikaze drones and ballistic missiles. In the Ukrainian capital, residential buildings were damaged, blackouts were reported, and water supplies were disrupted, according to authorities. In the southeastern Zaporizhzhia region, a 7-year-old boy was killed by a Russian strike, according to military personnel, while his parents were injured. Reports say that the city was first struck with 8 Shahed kamikaze drones and later by guided aerial bombs and cruise missiles. On Thursday, Russia's defense ministry said that around 1,450 Ukrainian soldiers had been killed on the front lines in the past 24 hours, whereas Ukraine reported an estimated number of 1,020 Russian soldiers killed also over the past day.
U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that Spain should be thrown out of NATO as he met with his Finnish counterpart Alexander Stubb in the Oval Office on Thursday. The meeting, supposed to be the prelude to Finland's purchasing of U.S. icebreaker ships, steered into a discussion on the defense alliance. Trump had been feuding with Spain for several months, ever since the Iberian nation announced that it would not comply with his demands of raising defense spending to 5% of GDP.
As you know, I requested that they pay 5%, not 2%, and most people thought that was not going to happen, and it happened virtually unanimously. We had one laggard. It was Spain. Spain, they're doing fine. They have no excuse not to do this, but that's all right. Maybe you should throw them out of NATO, frankly.
The meeting with Stubb also formally secured the sale of the fleet of 11 ships, worth roughly 5.3 billion euros, the first to be delivered by 2028.
Spain could be the victim of another blackout, according to its grid operator, Red Electrica, which has warned that an abrupt voltage variation could affect power supply. The warning comes 6 months after an outage in April, which left 60 million people in Spain and Portugal without power for more than 10 hours. The European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity said in a report last Friday that the blackout was triggered by overvoltage as the grid struggled to absorb sudden power losses.
Belgium's latest national strike is expected to spark chaos across the country on Tuesday, the 14th of October. Trade unions will protest against reforms by the federal government impacting pensions, salaries and working conditions. The city's 2 main airports, Brussels Airport and Brussels-Charleroi, have confirmed hundreds of flights have been cancelled. Train, bus and tram services will also be significantly reduced.
At least 2 people have been killed in a 7.4 magnitude earthquake which struck off the southeastern coast of the Philippines. Footage from the city of Davao, the biggest city near the epicenter, shows health workers rushing wounded earthquake victims to hospital. 1 woman died in the city of Mati after being hit by falling debris, according to local officials. Filipino quake experts said they were expecting damage and aftershocks from the quake. Locals had initially received evacuation warnings for tsunami threats, but the warning was later lifted. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Honolulu said waves of up to 3 meters above normal tides were also possible on some Philippine coasts, and smaller waves were possible in Indonesia and Palau.
Imagine a small navy or a small soft unit want to attack a bigger navy using drones. It's going to be a surprise, and it's going to be with very non-expensive assets that they can create the advantage needed to go against a bigger and stronger enemy.
This technology is not static. It's dynamic. It's advancing. It's maturing rapidly, and it's changing the environment that we're operating in. Whether you're kicking indoors or you're swimming, in a harbor, the technology is arriving to make it more difficult, or in some cases more advantageous for us if we're using technology.
I think everybody on the set felt like, we were working on something special, that, a movie that we've enjoyed in the past, and we really wanted to honor the work that has been done before, whether it was the music, the actors, the story, the design of the film. And, I know I felt excited to be there. My inner child was like really stoked to be there every day.